Hello everyone, it's Carrie here from the Female Entrepreneur Association and welcome to another weekly dose of inspiration to build a successful business. So if you create e-courses or digital products or you're thinking about creating something like this, then you are going to love today's episode because we are joined by the amazing Brianne Dick who helps entrepreneurs all over the world to create world-class e-courses and learning experiences, and she's going to be sharing 4 things with you that you absolutely need to do when creating and selling your expertise online. So Brianne, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
I am so excited about this because I share my expertise online and create things, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And I think so many other people are going to be interested in this because lots of us we're at that stage where we are in an era where we share our expertise, which is great. So to learn how we can do it better is amazing, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And obviously, I know you've worked with lots of people over the years to help them create incredible courses and actually create and sell them amazingly. So I really can't wait. I know you have 4 myths that you're going to share with us, or you're going to bust for us, and then 4 incredible things that we all need to be doing. So let's just dive straight in and hear them.
All right. So before I get into the myths themselves, I just want to note for everyone who's listening in that I'm going to be giving examples about courses or learning and that sort of thing, but it's not just about providing online training. See, marketing, blogging, webinars, ebooks, books, even public speaking, all of those are about educating your audience. And so all of the 4 myths that I'm going to be talking about can apply broadly to all of those kinds of educational experiences. So let's jump in. Myth number 1. This myth I like to call the content is king myth. And it's the idea that great learning experiences come when you Now, that would seem to make intuitive sense, but the research tells us that content is actually less useful than we might think. Hands-on activities and practice is way, way more effective. So, for example, there was a research team in Stanford, and they wanted to test this out. And they got a group of neuroscience students, and they gave them a simulation of a brain and said, just kind of poke at it and see what you can figure out. No other instruction, just go experiment, see how it works. And they found that the students actually learned so much more from that experimentation than when they had had readings or lectures that explained it all to them. So it's not that content is king. Instead, you want to follow more of what we call the 80-20 rule, which you might have heard of before. And that's basically, in this context, try to get people to spend 80% of their time doing and applying and practicing what you're learning. And only 20% of the time then has to be you sharing content or having them watching videos or other kinds of consumption. And when you think about it, that can actually save you a lot of time too. After all, what's easier? Is it easier to create a 75-page ebook or a 75-page workbook that's 80% exercises and 20% content? That's myth number 1, that content is king, and that the truth really is activities and action is what's going to help people learn.
Yeah, I love that. So it is about then giving people exercises, and that's what you mean when you say get people to experiment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just before we started recording here, I made the comment to you that no one learned to walk by watching a how-to video. You have to just go and walk. That's the only way to actually learn.
Yeah, such a good point. Okay.
All right. Myth number 2 then, this actually relates to myth number 1 because especially when you're in this online business environment and you see all these other people creating these amazing courses, you might think, if I don't create a bunch of content, won't my students be dissatisfied? Won't they be upset that I'm not giving them a bunch of materials? And that's the myth. The idea is that people judge our course by how good and comprehensive it is, but that's not true. Yes, our students care that we have quality materials we're giving them, but there was a study published just last year that said, if you want to look at predictors of what's going to say, will students be satisfied with this? There's actually 3 things that predict whether students will be satisfied. The first one, yes, you have to have good content. You can't just put garbage out there and expect people to like it. But you also need to give people the ability to feel like they can interact with you as an expert. That doesn't mean you need to get on the phone with them. Maybe it means a Facebook group. Maybe it means just having an email address. Just knowing that they have the option to get help if they need it increases satisfaction, even if they don't use it. Just having the option is what they're looking for. And the other thing to consider is how tech savvy is the audience that you're trying to reach. And this is a mistake that I see a lot when people are trying to create online courses for their business. They choose a market that isn't necessarily tech savvy. And when you think about it, that audience is going to struggle more and be less satisfied because they have to learn the technology as well as learning whatever it is you're trying to teach them. So those three things combined, content, being available to your students, and just having the right tech savviness in your audience, those are the three things that you need to focus on if you want your students to be extremely satisfied.
So if you have an audience where they perhaps aren't tech savvy, would you suggest for people to, how would you suggest for them to share their expertise then?
You know, you can do online, but understand that up front, you're going to have to do maybe a little bit of orientation.
Okay.
How you use the platform. Some folks who maybe aren't as familiar with online courses, they might still be comfortable with Skype or FaceTime because that's what, it's usually an older generation, and that's how they talk to their kids and their grandkids. So you can use the tools that they're already familiar with in order to help evolve that conversation to a way that's comfortable for them, that doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Okay, perfect. I get it. Amazing.
So now this third myth, this might be my personal favorite because it's everywhere and I love busting this myth. So you can tell me, have you ever heard this idea of learning styles, that maybe you're a visual learner or an auditory learner? That's something you've heard of, right? Yeah. So I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but that is also a myth. In fact, in 2012, there was a list in a journal of the top neuromyths that have to do with education. And the myth of learning styles was the number one myth. So here's the truth. A team of Canadian researchers set to just test this out because it was one of these ideas that's been passed down over the years and no one could really figure out where it came from. So these researchers decided, we're just going to test it and see what happens. And they found there was absolutely no correlation between learning styles and learning success. So someone who was a visual learner, they were no better and no worse at remembering things that were presented in a picture versus in audio. Zero correlation. Now, you might have preferences. You might prefer to watch a video. Maybe you're taking the bus into work or something like that, and it's great to have the video on your phone. You might prefer to listen to a podcast. How well you will learn. It's a total myth, and it's been passed down over time. There's no evidence, and in fact, it's been proven to be false.
No way, I cannot believe that.
That's right. We hear it sounds so logical, and in fact, they did track back to who was the first person that came up with this idea, and if you look, it was Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and even he said, people are using this to say that there's such a thing as learning styles. I never said that. And yet for decades, we still have been, furthering this myth of learning styles. And it's just not true.
So basically when people are sharing their expertise and creating their courses, they don't need to worry so much about that.
No, create whatever is going to be the best vehicle for getting your message across. You don't need to create an infographic and a video and an audio clip to cover all the different learning styles. Just do whatever format's going to work the best. Save yourself some work.
Yeah, it's going to make people feel very relieved. That is amazing.
All right. And now for the last myth. And this one is specifically for everyone who's listening who maybe you want to build an audience or make some money or have an impact on people. Probably pretty much everyone who's listening. And you believe that education is the way to do that. This myth is simple. And it's the myth that people care about whatever it is you want to teach them. Ouch. That one sounds a little nasty. So let me explain before you panic and close out because I've shattered your worldview. The truth is that in order for us to learn anything, we have to be motivated to do so. We have to want to learn. And this is especially true for adults. We are driven deeply by intrinsic motivation. That's the motivation that comes from deep inside of us. Basically, we're selfish. We want to learn what we want to learn. We don't care about what other people tell us we should be learning. Think about when you were in school and they tried to get you to memorize those math formulas. And you're like, why do I have to learn this? I don't care. It's why it's really important that we, as experts and professionals and business owners, adopt what's called a learner-centered mindset. So what does that mean? Well, research shows that if we ask ourselves, what do I want to teach? Whether it's through a course or a blog post or a book or whatever, just starting from that mindset gets in the way of your effectiveness. What we need to do instead is start by getting inside the heads of our audience and figure out what is their end goal. What do they want to achieve when this is all done? The approach then becomes, I know where you want to get. I'm going to help you get there. Not, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know. I'm going to be kind of a guide on the side rather than a sage on the stage. It's not about transmitting knowledge to you. It's about helping you, bring you along the way. And the research shows that just when you change your own mindset about what your role is in helping people learn, it makes a huge impact on how effective you are as an instructor. Plus, big bonus for business owners, great for marketing too. Because as we know, people buy because of what our product or our service or our course or our offer, they buy based on what it does for them. And so focusing on the results that they already want not only convinces them to buy, but it actually helps them learn and experience the transformation you have in mind for them.
I love all of those tips and all those myths that you've just bust, because like so many people do think those things, especially like with the last one, you do think, well, what is it that I actually want to teach? And then you go about it from that mindset. So that in itself is just amazing. So thank you so much for sharing all of those. And I was thinking actually to get everyone to take action on, or at least some action on what you've just shared and what you taught, I thought maybe it'd be really great to challenge everyone to, if they have got something they're planning on teaching, to go out to their audience and maybe do a survey with them to find out actually what is it that people want to learn, want help with, need results from. So that's a challenge for everyone, to go out and take that away and experiment with it, so you can actually see results and see how effective it is. So I thought that was something good that people could do. And I would love to hear what you think on this. Are you creating e-courses or digital products, or about to? If so, head over to the blog, leave a comment and share your experiences with this. Also share which myth maybe you felt like you actually thought that one of those myths was true, or used to go along with what it was all about. If so, leave a comment and let us know which one it was. And also, if you've enjoyed this video but you're not subscribed, then make sure you subscribe so you get next week's video. You can do so on the blog via the link below, or you can do so over on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it inspiring. I definitely have. And I will see you next week for another dose of inspiration.